Good afternoon. Today I'm proud to be joined by Democratic leadership and members of the House Committee on Education and Workforce to unveil our vision for the future of higher education. In 1965, when he signed the Higher Education Act, President Lyndon Johnson said that this legislation means that a high school senior anywhere in this great land of ours can apply to any college or university in any of the 50 states and not be turned away because the family is poor. He also said that higher education is no longer a luxury, but a necessity. That was true then, and unfortunately, an affordable quality degree is no longer within reach for millions of Americans. The AIM Higher Act is a comprehensive reauthorization of the Higher Education Act, which gives every student the opportunity to earn a degree that leads to a rewarding career without incurring debt. This bill is based on three pillars: access, affordability, and completion. The AIM Higher Act makes a quality degree more accessible by providing students and parents with the information they need to find the right school. It makes college more affordable by providing immediate long-term relief to students and families struggling with rising costs. For those who do borrow to pay for school, this bill makes student loans simpler to understand by consolidating numerous programs and easier to repay with more generous terms to repay their loans. Additionally, and most importantly, our proposal cracks down on predatory for-profit institutions that aggressively target veterans with expensive, low-quality programs. And finally, the AIM Higher Act increases school completion by giving students the tools they need to graduate on time. For example, they invest in campus child care for student parents, subsidized housing for homeless and foster youth, faculty training for students to deal with students with disabilities, and community centers for student veterans. Last December, the Republicans on the Education and Workforce Committee expressed their vision for higher education when they advanced the PROSPER Act. It cut $15 billion from student aid and diverted taxpayers' money into low-quality programs. That bill was reported out of committee on a party line vote and is presently awaiting House action. The proposal we're announcing today stands in stark contrast. We want to invest in students, focus on quality, and crack down on predatory schools. Every person deserves an economic mobility and the personal growth that comes with higher education, and that's what the AIM Higher Act provides. It's now my pleasure to introduce the ranking member on the Subcommittee on Higher Education, gentlelady from California, Susan Davis.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm honored to be here along with Ranking Member Scott and my colleagues to introduce the AIM Higher Act. Our committee, under the leadership of Ranking Member Scott, has worked hard to put together a progressive vision of higher education. We want a world where parents do not have to choose between college for their kids or paying the rent, where borrowers do not have a lifetime of debt because of a college degree, and where race, gender, and socioeconomic status do not determine professional success. The Higher AIM Act stands in stark contrast to the PROSPER Act that our colleagues across the aisle introduced earlier this year. This bill puts people before corporate interest and invests resources in our most important assets, and I think we all know what they are. Those are our students, our children. I'm especially proud that this bill incorporates my Pell Preservation and Expansion Act, which increases the Pell amount and allows more students to access these critical funds. And also, as a strong supporter of apprenticeships, I'm pleased that the bill allows federal student aid to be used for quality short-term career programs. Higher education should include any government-passed high school, including career pathways for those who choose not to attend traditional colleges. No matter what career path a student may choose, this bill gives everyone access to a high-quality, low-cost education. And I'm also pleased by the protections that are included in this bill. My district is San Diego, and we're a very proud Navy town. Far too often, I hear from veterans who have lost their GI benefits to bad actors in the for-profit education industry. This bill has strong protections for our veterans, among other students, and will ensure that taxpayer dollars are not wasted at low-quality institutions. For these and for many other reasons, I'm thrilled to support the AIM Hire Act, and I hope we pass this visionary bill in the near future. And I'm happy to introduce David Cicilline.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'm very proud to be here with my colleagues to announce the introduction of the AIM Hire Act. Access to affordable higher education has always been one of the keys to ensuring that young people in our country can enter the workforce successfully and go on to a rewarding career. But the cost of education today is far steeper than it was for previous generations. As we stand here, millions of young Americans have to choose between taking on huge amounts of debt or giving up on their dream of earning a degree or credential. Right now, there are more than 44 million Americans working to pay off $1.5 trillion in student loan debt. 7 out of every 10 graduates from a four-year college leave school with debt. And student loan debt is now a larger problem than credit card debt, car loan debt, and home equity lines of credit. We are rapidly becoming a country where access to higher education is a privilege for those who can afford it and out of reach for almost everyone else. But the Republicans who control Congress haven't shown any interest in fixing this problem. They stand with the wealthy and well-connected special interests who fund their campaigns rather than the folks trying to pursue an education in an affordable way. And that's why Republicans voted to cut billions of dollars in federal student aid this year in order to help pay for their $2 trillion tax cut that they just gave to the richest Americans and the most successful corporations in this country. Democrats know we can do better, and that's why we're introducing the AIM Hire Act today. This is a common sense, comprehensive bill that works for the young people of this great country. As my colleagues have said, it increases investments in financial aid, it makes the majority of Pell Grant funding mandatory, and it creates new incentives that will require states to offer 2 years of tuition-free community college, as we've already done in my home state of Rhode Island. It also makes student loans easier to understand. It helps put every student on a path to graduating without crippling debt. Passing this bill into law will be a victory for the people who are paying for higher education today and for young people who are thinking about pursuing a career or a credential in the future. It will create greater opportunity for the young people in working and middle-class families to get ahead, and it will mean that more people enter the workforce with the skills and the tools that they need to get ahead. And in addition to all that, it will lift up our entire country by making it possible for more people to start a business, buy a home, send their kids to college, and save for a secure retirement. Most of all, it will mean that no longer will we be a nation where only the most fortunate can pursue higher education. I want to end by thanking Ranking Member Bobby Scott and all of our colleagues for their leadership in crafting this legislation. I look forward to continuing to work with them to make this a priority when we take the House back in November. And with that, I'm honored to introduce the distinguished gentlelady from California, our leader, Nancy Pelosi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cicilline, and thank you for your great leadership as Vice Chair of our Democratic Policy Communications Committee. We're all here to honor the work and sing the praises of our Ranking Member, Bobby Scott. I'm pleased to be joined by a gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Brown, Mr. Cicilline, as was acknowledged, Congresswoman Davis, a person who has been a leader on the Education and Workforce Committee for a long time, and of course, our ranking member, Bobby Scott. I just left him as he spoke about this to some high school students, to some young people, and this is legislation of great importance to them. It is in stark contrast to what the Republicans have put forth in their Prosper bill, which cuts $15 billion. The Republican bill cuts $15 billion from financial aid and undermines the bedrock of Pell. And they call it the Prosper bill. Anytime they name something, you know it's the opposite. Decimates loan repayment flexibility and eliminates the public service loan and loan forgiveness, and repeals critical protections from predatory lenders and institutions. They're creating a two-tiered educational system, one where the wealthiest population gets the opportunities and else the others get left behind. Democrats stand opposed to the Republican efforts and will continue to fight for the people. And a Democratic majority will make historic changes to higher education by making student loans more affordable and expanding Pell Grants. We did that already in 2010 when we did the Affordable Care Act and the Higher Education Act in tandem. We'll update the GI Bill for the first time since World War II, apart from the GI Bill for the the Afghan and Iraq vets, increasing access to education by investing in minority serving institutions, HBCUs, and community colleges. And in order to ensure debt-free higher education is within reach for everyone, but more work needs to be done. Education is the most important investment a family can make in its children and nation can make in its future. That's why we're proud to stand with Mr. Scott in unveiling the AIM Higher Act. This strong legislation will invest boldly in America's students and families now and into the future. We will continue to press for progress to ensure a debt-free, quality, and meaningful college education that is within reach for every student. Democrats will continue to fight to put all Americans on the road to success. And we're doing this within the context of for all, for the people. And it means that a couple of points I just want to add. And one is that nothing brings more money to the Treasury than investing in education. So when the Republicans want to cut investments in education, they're not decreasing the deficit, they're adding to it, because nothing brings more revenue to the Treasury than investments in education. And as we do this to aim higher, we're also saying that young people who don't want to go to college or can't, that there is a path forward. But we want to make sure they have every option available to them. With that, I am pleased to yield to Anthony Brown, the gentleman from Maryland, new member, again, effective from the start. Welcome, Mr. Brown.
Thank you. I want to thank Leader Pelosi and Ranking Member Scott, the entire committee, and thank you for allowing me to participate in the announcement of the AIM Higher Act. I am a veteran, and I recognize that the AIM Higher Act renews the promise of economic and educational opportunity to future generations of students, and that's all students. It provides, as you heard, for states to offer tuition-free community college. It increases funding for TRIO and Gear Up programs. It supports teachers and those who are working to become educators. It addresses our growing skills gap through dual enrollment in early college high schools. And the AIM Higher Act supports our veterans, and I'd like to speak to that. One of the most successful programs our country ever created was a GI Bill, enabling veterans to go to college. Earlier this Congress, Democrats and Republicans came together to pass the Forever GI Bill, the most sweeping expansion of veterans' educational benefits in a decade. But Republicans are now peddling the Prosper Act in the House, which rolls back the consumer protections that we gave veterans and makes the GI Bill a giveaway to bad schools and predatory programs. That's why the AIM Higher Act is so important. It protects veterans from predatory, for-profit colleges and low-quality programs and ensures they get the support they need to graduate on time. To be certain, the Republican bill goes on in the opposite direction, preying on veterans who are treated as nothing more than dollar signs in uniforms. We keep the gainful employment rule, which cuts off federal aid from overpriced education programs that consistently graduate veterans with debt they can't repay. The Republicans would eliminate this protection. We keep the borrower defense rule that forgives student loans if a student is defrauded by a school. Thousands of veterans have been defrauded over the years, including many unable to complete their degree programs after the sudden closures of all Corinthian colleges and ITT technical institutes. The Republicans greatly limit that protection. We not only keep but also expand the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program that clears a borrower's student loan debt if they work for the public sector or for a nonprofit for 10 years. This has significant impact on military readiness, not because I say so, but because the Pentagon says so. They say it's essential to recruit and retain service members. The Navy JAG Corps would be decimated because about 6,800 service members participate in and rely on this program. That's why our bill not only keeps the program, but expands it to veteran service organizations like the American Legion and the VFW. The Republicans would eliminate this program too. The AIM Higher Act recognizes that getting to college is one thing and completing college is another. That's why Democrats are committed to increasing funds for veteran student centers to serve as on-campus, one-stop center for tailored support to veterans. Veterans organizations say Congress should be strengthening the protections and supports for students that many of us fought so hard for, not watering down or eliminating them. That's why a coalition of veterans organizations does not support the Republicans' Prosper Act. Student Veterans of America, Veterans Education Services, American Legion, VFW, AMVETS all oppose the GOP Prosper Act. Congress ultimately has responsibility to ensure access to quality, affordable higher education. It's critical to strengthening Americans' workforce and economy. Military-connected students are among the most successful students in higher education, and they're some of the most deserving. Any reauthorization of the Higher Education Act should protect our service members, veterans, and military families and give them the opportunity to earn a degree without taking on enormous student debt. The AIM Higher Act does exactly that. And with that, I'll yield back to the ranking member.
Thank you. Thank you. Can somebody tell us how much time we have?
How many people have not heard?
Okay, question?
Yes, debt-free college or tuition-free college is one of the ideas that a number of progressive candidates around the country have been endorsing. And I wonder if you're responding to pressure and excitement from them.
Well, we're responding to the Prosper Act that makes things worse. We're also responding to every town hall meeting anyone has had in the last few years where crushing student debt is always brought up. And so the affordability of college is a growing issue. For the last 30 years, college has become more and more expensive, less and less accessible and affordable. And so we're responding to the problem. Free college and other things, all these ideas are steps in the same direction. Yes, ma'am.
At this point, do you have a rough estimate on what this package might wind up costing?
Not exactly. We're getting it scored by CBO. Now, there are many things that are very expensive in it, the two-year community college and the increase in Pell Grants. But there are also significant savings in it because we cut out a lot of fraud and abuse, so there'll be savings. But I can guarantee you it will be a lot less than the tax cut, including the portion of the tax cut that went to the top 1% in corporations. It will be significantly less than that.
And nothing brings more money to the Treasury than investing in education.
And it does that in two ways. One, when you have spent the money, you create jobs providing the education, and then you end up with a better educated workforce that can do better. And so for two reasons, we can aim higher and get a better return on our investment. If there, real quick, yes, sir.
The Sanders and Schatz bills goes free to and four-year college. This bill has a state-federal partnership that would require free community college. So why did you draw the line there and not go with?
We wanted to keep within a reasonable budget. We don't oppose other initiatives, but providing education is expensive, and we're just trying to keep it within a manageable amount. Very quickly. The fact that the government makes money on student loans is something we need to deal with. But the way to pay back the loans, public service forgiveness, income contingent, where the debt is written off after a certain number of years, those programs are maintained. In the Prosper Act, they eliminate public service loan forgiveness, and if you're in an income contingent plan, you have to actually pay off the entire loan, which could be, in one scenario, was over 100 years, you'd be still paying off your debt. So, thank you very much.